Welcome back to the Watch Before You Die podcast. My name is Brian. I'm here with Ben. Happy New Year. This
Happy
is
New
an
Year.
episode long time coming, but we are reviewing the movie Closely Watched Trains from 1967. It's
Yes.
a Czechoslovakian movie. I think I got that word out correctly.
Yeah, easy for you to say.
It's based on a book that was written in 1966, and it was a black and white film. And let's just jump right into it. Let's hear a little bit about this
Yeah.
movie. Ben, what do you think about this
Yeah,
movie?
so the film actually quite interesting. It started off a little strange because again, it's an older movie, black and white, and it was also pretty poor quality. It's a hard film to find. Like you can't find it in high quality. It's a Czech film from a long time ago. We found this YouTube channel that had kind of a culmination of a bunch of different kind of films, and so the quality wasn't great, which had me a little like, on the edge already because I like to see what I'm seeing and actually understand what's going on.
Right.
And with a lot of the foreign films we've seen, the subtitles have been pretty subpar.
Yep.
This one I think could fall probably into that category a little bit. Not super necessary, but the film just kind of follows this like young dude who's starting a new job at a railroad station.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was during World War II, World War One.
Yeah, I think World War II.
And but it really doesn't have anything to do with war. It's just kind of like a almost a funny old time romantic type film, rom-com type film, where it's just following this guy as he's like crushing on this other girl at the train station he works with, but all around him are these influences of like what not to do with women, or in his mind how to treat women or how to interact with women. He thinks it's like the ideal, like, man, how does this guy get all the women? And if you're the viewer, you're probably like, it's not really the best way to get ladies, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting film. It definitely was not what I was expecting when you think of like, one, a foreign film, and two, like a wartime story. It's not what I was expecting at all.
Yep. It definitely does.
So that's kind of it,
It definitely does an interesting job of, we've kind of explored a couple movies now where you kind of have somewhat of an unlikable protagonist and you have to choose whether or not you're going to be on their side. And it says, like, one of the first lines in the movie is Milos, which is the boy's name. He's just, he's really not interested in the war, and he's really not interested in doing honest work. He just wants to join the railway so that he doesn't have to work anymore and he doesn't have to do any more work. And he's kind of, like you said, he's just interested in being a kid. He just wants to chase girls and he wants to be interested in, just normal stuff. And so it's kind of an interesting movie from that standpoint. It's, for me at least, not to spoil too much or whatever, get ahead of ourselves. It seems like a better movie on paper than it actually comes across in film, at least for me. But we'll get to the ratings here soon.
It does remind me of a bit of like a coming of age type tale. It has very much a teen feel to it. I mean, it doesn't. It has a bit of adult humor here and there, but it's definitely geared much towards like what we would traditionally like look at like teenage rom-coms type thing. These movies where it's like, we're gonna follow a high school kid as they fall in and out of love in high school and then make their way towards whatever their future holds. It has that kind of a vibe, just in Czechoslovakian and from the 1960s, I think is what you said it was. So yeah, I mean, I don't mind getting into ratings. I would love to hear what your rating is, just because I think you had a feeling on it.
I did. I'll go a little bit more on explanation of movie before we jump just straight to ratings. I felt like a lot of this movie was more told than shown. And when it comes to a movie, I don't like just being told, like, so Milos, he goes and he works in the railway station with this guy who is a self-proclaimed ladies' man. And for some reason, like, girls are just like swooning at his, like, but he doesn't really do anything. And he doesn't really prove to the audience like why he's a ladies' man, as much as just he just is. And
they just say he is, basically.
He's kind of like a comic book character. He's like not real. I don't know. They accomplished a lot. It was a shorter movie. It was only like an hour and a half. And,
which was nice. I take that into consideration.
It clips along. It moves pretty quickly. And it definitely subverted my expectations a couple of times. it got surprisingly humorous at some points, and it got surprisingly dark at some points, and then it got surprisingly light at others. And it was just, I don't know. I think for a movie made in 1967, I think it was a good effort. I think by today's standards, there are few things that would make me want to watch it again. So I think if I'm jumping into ratings, I think I have this movie at about a 4.5.
Okay. Interesting.
It's pretty low for me just because, and maybe that's because I watched it on, it was kind of lower quality and kind of dark. It was hard to tell what was going on. It was hard to read the captions. Like you said, sometimes the Czech to English isn't necessarily 1-to-1.
No.
It doesn't make perfect sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are some, references to attempted suicide, and there's some like darker themes that are handled in this. And it was just kind of like one of those movies that for me, I was like, oh, it's not my favorite. It's not my cup of tea. Maybe not for me, but, being totally forthcoming. We watched this movie quite a while ago, and we've been sitting on it. Has to have been
like over 2 months probably.
And so I had to go back and read synopsises to remember, what did I watch, kind of remember.
Right.
And on paper, it's actually very intriguing to read it back. But watching it, I remember feeling very underwhelmed. So I think this would be one of many that, like, the book is maybe a little bit better than the movie, but it's not necessarily the movie's fault. It might have been limited by the medium of the day. So
yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that, because I actually would probably want to read the book after having watched the film. I think I would maybe pick up that book just to read it, to see if it's a 1-to-1 kind of a scenario, and if it carries the story along.
Sure.
What I will say for this movie, for me, is I actually rate this movie a little bit higher than I would have. I think I have this probably at like a 7.1. I find it enjoyable. It didn't really drag for me. I feel like a lot of the movies we've reviewed have felt like they dragged. Like, it's like get to the point kind of a thing.
Oh, yeah.
This movie didn't. In fact, this movie kind of fits into like the Carrie role, where it's like at times it maybe went a little too fast for its own good, and you don't build on you don't build as you could have. Which we talked a lot about in Carrie. It's like there's so much more movie to be had there, and it wasn't there. What I will say is I probably would rewatch this if I could find a high quality version.
Sure.
Like, I would love to see this film like in a high definition, just to see like if it changes the view of the movie for me. But overall, I found it pretty enjoyable. And so, like 7.1, I think kind of sums it up. I think for when it was made, and the kind of the storyline that we follow, it was good for what it was. So, 7.1 for me, which is a bit high, but
Hey, awesome.
Better than what I expected.
Like I said, I mean, I do think the book is probably better material, so I would be interested to know. Like, I mean, it could be, like you said, it was tempting for you to go back and read the book now and maybe even rewatch the movie.
Yeah,
I'm less so on the movie, but reading the material might be interesting to.
Yeah, might be interesting.
But
you might find me later this month buying a high definition copy of Closely Watched Trains and having it shipped from wherever it might be in the world to watch. So
you can find a $1 copy somewhere in like the Walmart bins or something.
It's gotta be somewhere. Yeah, absolutely. That's a throwback right there. The dollar bins at Walmart.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah. Well,
that's a college throwback.
With a 7.1 from you and a 4.5 from me, our average score is 5.8. So
okay.
Pretty fair, pretty standard movie.
Yeah, I think that's fair considering.
Yep. And who knows? Maybe in on our next re-rank episode, maybe I'll come back and be like, you know what? I gave that some thought.
Yeah, right. Depends on how many poor movies we see between now and then, and
that's right.
How many good movies we see between now and then.
All right, so that is the 1967 movie Closely Watched Trains. We, I guess, recommend you check it out. There are some themes to be aware of. Obviously,
absolutely.
Watch with parental guidance or with your own personal guidance.
Absolutely.
But if you weren't here for the re-rank episode, we've already rolled for our next movie, so it's less of a surprise for us. We actually know what it will be this time.
I'll act shocked. Ready?
Oh yeah. Okay. Best acting right here from Ben.
Okay, I'm ready.
Our random number is 823.
Okay, that's got to be 1980s, maybe 19.
You're getting
right
close.
around there.
Yep.
Okay.
1989.
Yeah. Okay.
Field of Dreams.
Wow, I can't even believe it. Hard to imagine.
Crazy, a classic.
Yeah, can't wait to watch it.
So we've known for a while that we're going to be watching the movie Field of Dreams. That'll be our next episode. I personally have never seen this movie. I know about this movie just from pop culture references and other people referencing it, but I have never seen it. So this will be a first watch for me.
I think I probably saw it one time 20 to 25 years ago. So I don't even, again, I know the concept of it, but I couldn't tell you what happens. So it'll be a nice watch for me to just be like discovering a movie that people really highly rate and talk really highly about. So,
and one fun piece of trivia is we rolled this movie long enough ago that it was for free on Netflix. It has left Netflix in the month of December. And so we may be paying for this one to watch it.
Okay, well, that's what we get. We will indeed be paying for it for not having kept up with the podcast well. So there we go.
So our next movie, 1989, Field of Dreams. And in the meantime, thanks you guys for watching. Appreciate y'all. Hope you're having a great new year and staying safe. Catch you next time.